What's up, y'all? So, I just feel like a fire is lit up under my ass today. I was watching this YouTube video talking about the year of the fire horse, and I was just like, yeah, like I need to get on my shit. You know what I mean? And I will say I have been on my shit, but I haven't recorded a new episode or YouTube video in a while, so I wanted to be present, show up, and talk about something that has been on my mind and something that I have personally been experiencing. And I'm wondering if you guys are feeling the same way. And it's this idea of regulating your nervous system and also stepping into your sovereignty. And it's this thing is coming up for me where I have these dreams, goals, vision for myself. And I mean, I've always been this way, very goal oriented and driven. And I mean, I am an Aries after all. Right now, Saturn and Neptune are on my sun. So I feel like this pressure to really create something from the dreams and visions that I have. But you know, I've been this way my whole life. So I've been able to see what actually works and what doesn't work when it comes to trying to create a vision, taking those ideas that are in our imagination and in our hearts and minds, and how can we actually bring that into our tangible reality. And something that I've noticed is if I feel unworthy or undeserving, or it feels unsafe for some reason to have this success or abundance of some sort, it's not going to work out. It's never going to work out that way because I'm already creating a self fulfilling prophecy where it's not safe for me to receive or experience that thing. Which seems weird, right? Like, oh, well, if I want to make X amount of money in a year or every month, you would think my nervous system would be like, yeah, girl, like that will make you feel even more safe. But the reality is, our mind is linking it to, well, if I receive this, what am I going to have to do differently? How am I going to have to show up that feels outside of my comfort zone? So it's not really the thing that feels unsafe. A lot of the times it's subconsciously how we feel we're going to have to change or be different in order to receive said thing. So, anyway, I've been thinking about my nervous system and how can I keep that grounded? How can I stabilize my nervous system in order to open myself up to this newer identity where I'm living in this reality where I do have this abundance, right? And there's also this piece of sovereignty, personal empowerment, independence that's also kind of linked to it. And when I'm thinking about that, it's like, what do I mean by sovereignty? I kind of feel like, okay, there's this good girl version of myself, and maybe you resonate with this. There was a good girl mask that I had to put on growing up in order to be loved and accepted. Even though deep down, that was not who I was at all. I like to push the boundaries. I like to be different. I like to do things my own way. I hate being told what to do. And yet I had to put on this facade. I had to put on this role and identity of being the good girl. And that was where I had to externalize my own safety and acceptance and value. So instead of intrinsically feeling my own worth and power and safety, I had to seek it from outside sources, which I think many of us growing up, that's what we had to do. And we had to figure out what mask and role we had to put on and play in order to get that validation and to get that love and connection or whatever it was, right? So, sovereignty to me is the opposite of the good girl. Sovereignty to me is, I mean, it's the baddie. It's the version of us that doesn't give a fuck about external validation because we're already validating ourselves so deeply. Like we know who we are on such a deep level. It doesn't matter what other people's perception of us is because we know deeply who we are. And we're not constantly seeking validation from other people's approval or our success or even how much money we have in the bank or our material success or even how we look, right? It's really like from our core soul and being, we know and we trust ourselves. It's not coming from anything outside of us, and that is the highest point of power that we can embody and grasp in our lives. And it's so interesting because when we have this good girl mask on and we're seeking approval, we feel as though being a people pleaser, trying to be perfect, we feel like there's a sense of control there because, well, if I can just be perfect, if I can just be hyper vigilant and be a chameleon and change who I am in order to make other people feel comfortable, then I'll be accepted. But that isn't control. Like you have no control over other people and how they're going to accept and perceive you. And even when we get those things, it's never enough. Even when we get somebody else's approval, it's like there's always somebody else that we're seeking approval from, or there's always the next thing that we need to buy or have in order to signal to everyone else that this is our actual identity. So it's not really control. It's like a fake sense of control. And it's chaotic, reactive as well. But when we are in our sovereign energy, it's like you can actually settle into the present moment. You can actually feel at home in yourself, in your mind, in your whole nervous system, because you know you don't have to control all of these external things that you truly don't have any control over. And as soon as you feel like you have one grasp of control, there's something else to worry about. So, leaning more into this sovereign energy, you really are able to relax into yourself, to feel more steady, to feel more grounded, and to truly be able to be yourself. And you're able to experience life in a way that I feel like is more meaningful, is more deep, is more in congruence with your heart and just in alignment with what you actually want and desire for yourself. So let's get into it. I kind of just want to talk about this because I think it's so important. And I've just recognized it in my own journey and process that the times when I've been able to magnetize opportunities and situations and experiences and opportunities was when I was actually in this sovereign energy. versus whenever I was in my good girl energy, trying to grasp, trying to control, and being more reactive. So, a quote that I want to say, I don't know who quoted it, but it's just this idea that my external life can only expand to the level of that my nervous system feels safe holding. It's so true. And let's say you're in your good girl vibe and you actually do you get the relationship that you want, you get the job that you want, you get the paycheck that you want. But if your nervous system doesn't feel safe holding and receiving that, there is going to be a level of sabotage that happens from that, because for some reason you're still deep inside going to feel like you're unworthy of it. So that is because the nervous system is always going to ask us, is this safe? Do I have control over this? And is this familiar? Right? And if something that we want to experience feels too big, if it feels like we're going to be too visible, if it feels too abundant, or if it feels unfamiliar to us, and this identity that we are currently embodying, the nervous system is going to unconsciously pull us back into our known reality. And that's going to happen through self doubt, procrastination, losing interest suddenly, attracting destabilizing people. And it's like, it's attracting destabilizing people or situations, but it's like, because that's known to us, we accept it. Like, maybe everyone can attract that into their lives, but whether or not we actually accept and engage with the destabilizing person, that's a whole other thing. That relates to where your nervous system is and what your nervous system feels like is familiar. Um, and kind of related to the self doubt, this can be second guessing yourself as well, which I find that comes up so much, especially with the women that I meet with in my work. It's like, and I experience it too. It's like we doubt ourselves so much. We have such imposter syndrome sometimes. And it's like, but these mediocre people out here, sorry guys, but they show up, and they're just talking and they're not even intentional with it. But the people I meet, it's like they're intentional. They are trying to leave a positive impact on this world. So anyway, sorry, that's kind of a side tangent. But the reasons this happens, the self-doubt, procrastination, all of that is pulling us back into this known reality because our system hasn't fully integrated the new identity yet. So essentially, sovereignty, being the baddie, being in your villain era, harnessing your personal power, that is the portal. Because at that point, the nervous system stops outsourcing safety and acceptance through the external, and it becomes internal. It's an internal process. So instead of other people's approval, predictable outcomes, old roles and identities that we've played, safety begins to come from within, and we become our own internal authority. And through that process, we are creating so much more emotional stability for ourselves. And that is what increases our ability to magnetize and also experience expansion. So, this deep internal shift is what is creating a new external reality and experience for us. It's not the other way around. A lot of the times we wait for our outside circumstances to change in order for us to feel a different type of way. But what has to happen is we have to feel a different type of way first in order for the external to actually change. Okay, so what are the steps? Like, what are the steps from going from this good girl persona to this baddie sovereign energy? Okay, I have 6 steps here, and I'm gonna keep it quick because we're at 15 minutes now, and I'm trying to just like, you're busy, I'm busy, let's get it done. So, step one, we are going to begin to catch the ways that we are abandoning ourselves in real time. You know, those moments when, like, okay, here's an example for me. So I was doing tarot readings, and um I actually had a couple people like forget to pay. And at the moment, I realized that they hadn't paid, but I felt uncomfortable bringing it up. I didn't know how to bring it up. So I just let them leave. And then I was just kind of like grounding into myself. And I was like, okay, I feel uncomfortable. This is a good lesson learned that this is something I need to make more clear up front. But for now, this has already happened. So what do I do now? And the resolution for me was to speak up, even though I didn't want to. And so there are moments when it would be easier to not say anything and to stay comfortable um, playing this role of the good girl or whatever it is. Maybe waiting until you feel more ready, maybe like questioning if you're right or in the wrong, wondering if it's actually going to work. And in those moments, just recognizing, okay, I feel like I'm abandoning myself here. I feel like I'm just trying to keep everybody comfortable at my own expense. So being aware of that, and ideally taking a small step to assert your personal power in those moments. Step number 2 is start keeping small promises to yourself. So this is going to create evidence for you that you can absolutely trust yourself. And the more that you trust yourself, the more that that intrinsic worth and safety and value is going to grow, and you're not going to need it as much from external sources. So, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're going to go to yoga, go to yoga. And it's like, if you can start small. I mean, I would encourage start small instead of trying to overhaul your whole life and show up in all these new ways perfectly. You know, like start to follow through on small things and build up that evidence for yourself, and be sure to recognize, like, even if it is just going to yoga, it's like you did that. Like, be proud of yourself on your drive home and be like, hell yeah, I went to yoga. I showed up for myself like I said I would. Step 3, stop negotiating with your fear, right? Like, our fear is always going to be there, but don't let your fear be the driver. Like, fear should not be the decision maker here. Um, you can let fear sit in the back seat and be like, okay, fear, I see you, I hear you, and I'm confident in my abilities. I trust that I'm going to be able to handle whatever comes up. And whatever fear you're bringing up, if I can plan ahead for it, if I can support myself in feeling less fear through preparation or whatever, fine, I'll do that. But you're not going to make the decisions. And it's like, we don't have to automatically obey our fear. We don't want to make our choices out of avoidance of fear or feeling uncomfortable. We want to make choices based on what is actually in alignment for us. Um, Step 4, start to build emotional stability instead of chasing confidence or approval or validation. So, feeling stable within ourselves is the ability to feel uncertain, to feel vulnerable, to maybe feel a little risk without abandoning yourself. I mean, actual confidence is created through showing up even though fear is present, right? Step 5, we're going to remove sources of constant destabilization. Okay, right? Like if we're constantly exposed to things that dysregulate us, it's going to be pretty difficult to be sovereign because all of these dysregulating experiences and people, that is so tied to our good girl role and identity. And we don't need that. We need to break free from the chains of this old identity. And obviously, these sources of destabilization can be relationships that create confusion and anxiety. This could be environments where you constantly feel small and feel like you have to hide parts of yourself. This could be places or people where you feel like there's constant comparison. And this can also be overconsumption. And this could be related to substances, food, content, anything that, I mean, too much of anything isn't really a great thing. So, anywhere where we feel like we are overconsuming, that is destabilizing our nervous system. So, we want to be aware of these things and try to separate ourselves out from these things as much as we can. And then finally, the sixth step is start to act like the version of you that already trusts themselves. Like maybe you have a vision of your future self, and I love to tap into my future self and be like, what would future me do right now? Well, she would probably record this episode that's been on her to-do list for the last 2 weeks. So we're just going to do it. We're going to follow through with it. So ask yourself, what would that version of me that really trusts themselves, has confidence, that really is showing up in a new way, how would she handle this situation? What would she do with her time right now? And through these steps, you are going to break free from this old identity where maybe that external validation was priority to being in this more sovereign and like personal power energy where the trust, the love, the validation, it's all coming from within. A few notes here. Um, we can only build self trust with ourselves through self support and compassion and love. We're not going to be able to build trust with ourselves if we are constantly pressuring ourselves or criticizing ourselves. So keep that in mind. We're going to be gentle with ourselves. And I also want to know, I kind of mentioned like the good girl can be kind of reactive and sometimes passive. And these are things we don't want to be honest. Or at least I don't. um Passive and reactive, right? I feel like sometimes when we're in this good girl energy, we attract these types of people in our lives because we know how to make up for the passive person and we know how to calm down and regulate the reactive person. And those are traits that we have within ourselves. But if we can release that and be more intentional and more mindful, like that is going to regulate our nervous system rather than moving through life in a more passive and reactive way. Um, And it's like if things don't work, we're not going to collapse. That's okay. Like we're going to sit with ourselves, ask what we need. We're going to feel through our emotions and we're going to figure out how we want to best show up next. Um And we don't betray ourselves to maintain connection or safety. Like, we are steady. We are grounded. We know who the fuck we are. Even if we're still figuring out who we are, we're still grounded. We're still cool. Okay? And then lastly, we're going to end on this note because this is very important. Radical self-honesty. Okay? We already know. We already know what's real for us. But when we're constantly trying to seek approval externally, we push down our inner knowing and our intuition. So now is a great time to just practice listening to our intuition and following through with our intuition and beginning to rebuild that connection and that trust with our intuition. And the more that we do this and follow through with this, we're going to have a deeper connection with our inner knowing and be able to listen and follow through with it more. But what I want to say is, as much as we can, being very honest with ourselves with what we need, what we want in that moment, and following that, taking immediate aligned action. Sometimes I will be scrolling. I will be in a scroll hole. And it's because I want to shut off my brain and whatever. But I know in that moment, I'm like, girl, you need to go to bed. Or you need to go lay down and go read a book before you go to bed instead of scrolling. Sometimes I don't listen to it. I'm going to be honest. But sometimes I'm like, nope, you're right. You're right. I need to get off this and actually do something that's more aligned. So, in those moments that we can, we do. And that builds self-trust, it builds confidence, and we are building our sovereign aligned self. So anyway, I hope this episode was helpful for you today. Like, we have this within us. The good girl is just a persona, is just a mask. The people pleaser, perfectionist, that's all bullshit. That's not you. It's not you deep down, I promise. So, anyway, I hope you got something good out of today's episode. If you have your own tips of how you have been able to step into your more independent, sovereign energy, please let us know in the comments. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon. Love ya. Bye.